Welcome to Alice Just Alice 55. You're listening to an AI-narrated audiobook of my original work, The Child the Sea Kept, written by Alice N. Smith. The chapter playlist is linked in the description below. Now let's begin. Chapter 7. Age 14. The Captain's Daughter. The captain had learned that a ship changed its mind slowly. Men could be ordered quickly. They could be made to haul, strike, reef, load, fire, scrub, bleed, and hold their tongues all in the space of a shouted command. But a ship was more than its orders. It was habit, memory. Whispered judgment passed from hammock to galley, from galley to gun deck, from gun deck to night watch. A ship decided what it believed by degrees, and once it believed a thing, even a captain's voice could not always cut the belief out cleanly. For years, the ship had believed Ava was a child the sea had left behind, for reasons no one understood. That belief had been useful for a time. It had made men cautious around her. It had kept hands away, jokes low, cruelty checked before it grew bold enough to test him. Superstition had done what law could not. The captain had permitted it because he had never been above using the shape of fear to protect what mattered. But Ava was 14 now, and the ship had begun to notice. She was still slight, still quiet, still watchful in a way that made older men remember sins they had nearly forgiven themselves for. But she no longer disappeared into corners as easily as she once had. She had grown into her bones, her face had sharpened, her hands had become sure with rope, knife, needle, chart, and cup. She moved across the deck with the balance of someone who had stopped asking permission from the boards beneath her feet. There were boys aboard, younger than she was. 2 powder boys still had voices that broke when they shouted. One cabin boy slept with a thumb tucked beneath his chin when he thought no one saw. A young deckhand, barely 13, had cried the first time Brig cuffed him for mishandling powder, and had pretended afterward that smoke had gotten in his eyes. No one called them omens. No one crossed themselves when they climbed the rigging. But Eva remained, in the minds of too many men, the thing pulled from wreckage, silent and pale, wrapped in a coat too large for her, and standing beneath a black flag while the captain told the crew her name. That would have to change. The captain stood over the chart table in his cabin while morning light spread thinly through the stern windows. Eva sat across from him with one knee drawn beneath her, a pencil in her hand, and her dark hair tied carelessly at the back of her neck. The chart between them was weighted at the corners by a compass, a knife, a brass cup, and a smooth black stone she had taken from some nameless shore and kept for no reason she had ever explained. The captain tapped 2 fingers against the inked shape of a coast. "Tell me where we do not sail." Eva looked at the chart. He waited. That was the first lesson he had taught her, though not with charts. A captain who feared silence would fill it with weakness. A captain who rushed an answer had already begun serving it. Eva traced one narrow inlet with the pencil, not touching the paper, only hovering above it. "Here." The captain tapped the inlet. "Why?" "Too narrow," Eva said. "If the wind turns, we cannot turn with it." The captain nodded once. Where else? Eva moved the pencil south. "Here." The captain followed the pencil. "Why?" "No depth marked," Eva said. "Absence of warning is not warning," the captain said. Eva glanced up at him. The captain held her gaze. After a moment, she looked back at the chart. No depth marked near shoals everyone knows. That means the map maker did not sound it or did not survive sounding it. The captain nearly smiled. Better. She marked the place lightly. He leaned back. And if a merchant captain swore he had passed through safely, I would ask what he was paid to say, Eva said. That is suspicion, the captain said. Useful, but not enough. Eva thought for several breaths. I would ask when he passed through. Tide, weather, weight of ship, who chased him, what he lost. The captain looked at her then, truly looked, and felt the old familiar unease move beneath his ribs. Not fear, he had never feared her, not exactly pride either, though there was some of that, unwilling and sharp, recognition perhaps. She had begun to understand that command was not certainty. It was the discipline of choosing while knowing certainty would never come. A knock struck the cabin door. The captain did not look away from Eva. Enter! Ansel opened the door and stepped inside. Quartermaster wants you on deck. One of the young ones fouled a line and nearly took a man's hand with it. The captain sighed. Is the hand still attached? Yes, Ansel said. Then the quartermaster is being dramatic, the captain said. Ansel's mouth twitched, but he did not smile. He says the boy claims he was told wrong. The captain looked up from the chart. By whom? Ansel's eyes flicked briefly toward Eva. That is where it becomes unpleasant. Eva set down the pencil. The captain looked at Ansel. He claims Eva told him wrong. He claims she had no place telling him anything. The captain was silent for a moment. Outside, footsteps moved overhead. A gull cried once, sharp and ugly. Eva said, he crossed the line over instead of under. Ansel's mouth twitched. Apparently so. The captain looked at her. You told him? Eva nodded. The captain asked, did he hear you? Eva nodded. Yes. The captain watched her face. Did he understand you? He disliked understanding me, Eva said. Ansel looked down at the floor. The captain did not let himself smile. Come. Eva rose. Ansel stepped aside to let them pass, and the captain saw him look at her as she went by. Not as he had looked when she was 8, not as if she were a question carried aboard by storm. There was still caution there, but something steadier beneath it. Respect, perhaps. Reluctant, but real. On deck, the morning had turned bright and hard. Sun flashed off wet planks. Men pretended to work while watching the argument near the mainmast. The quartermaster stood with arms crossed, a coil of rope at his feet, and murder in his posture. A young deckhand stood before him, flushed with anger and embarrassment. Brigg watched from near the guns, scowling as if the entire matter had personally insulted iron. Silas hovered close enough to hear and far enough to deny interest. Thomas had come up from the galley with flour still on one sleeve. That told the captain enough about the ship's mood. Men did not abandon bread unless rumor had teeth. The quartermaster turned as the captain approached. We have a discipline problem. The young deckhand blurted, Captain, I was doing as told. By whom? The captain asked. The boy's eyes cut toward Eva and away again. By her. The deck went quiet. In that particular way, men pretended was not silence. The captain looked at Eva. Show me. She stepped forward without hesitation. That, more than anything, made the crew watch her differently. She did not shrink from their attention. She did not enjoy it either. She simply entered it as she had entered storm, blood, fire, and every other danger that had mistaken her silence for permission. The rope lay partly coiled, partly dragged crooked across the deck. Eva crouched, lifted one length, and passed it through her hands until she found the fault. She did not hurry. The young deckhand's face reddened further. Eva said, "This cross is wrong." The boy snapped. It held. Eva looked at the burn mark scored across the rope. It nearly held. A few men shifted. The quartermaster said nothing. The captain watched the boy's jaw work. Pride was a dangerous thing at 14, 15, 20, 40. Men liked to imagine they outgrew it. They did not. They only learned better costumes for it. The boy said, "You're not my officer." "No," Eva said. The simplicity of it unsettled him. He had expected argument and found none. The boy looked to the captain. "Then why should I take correction from her?" There it was. Not the rope, not the mistake, not the almost injured hand. The real matter stood naked at last, sulking in the sun. The captain stepped closer. "Because she was right." The boy swallowed. "Captain, I did not mean—" "Yes," the captain said, "you did." The deck held still. The captain kept his voice calm. "You did not object because the correction was false. You objected because it came from her." The boy said nothing. The captain looked toward the gathered crew. "That is a poor reason to lose a hand." No one laughed. "Good." The captain crouched beside Eva. "Show him again." Eva's eyes moved to him, only a flicker, but he knew her well enough to read it. She had expected him to dismiss the boy, punish him, end the matter with command. Instead, he had handed the moment back to her, not to protect her, to make them see her. After a breath, Eva turned to the rope. "Overstrains here," she said, touching the damaged place. "Under gives it room when the ship pulls." The boy stared at the rope. Eva held it out to him. For a moment, the captain thought he might refuse. Then the boy took it. Eva rose and stepped back. The captain said, "You will fix it properly. Then you will thank her for correcting you before the sea did." The boy looked miserable. "Aye, Captain." The quartermaster's expression did not change, but his eyes moved to Eva. "And if she is wrong next time," the captain turned to him, "then correct her." A murmur moved through the men. The quartermaster held the captain's gaze. "Openly?" "If the mistake is open," the captain said. Eva looked at him again. That mattered too. The ship needed to see her judgment carry weight, but she needed to know weight was not worship. No captain survived being treated as an omen. No girl would either. The quartermaster gave the smallest nod, not agreement, not approval, acceptance of terms perhaps. Brigg grunted. "About time someone taught the lot of them rope before it kills us." Silas muttered, "Rope gets touchy when insulted." Tomas said, "So do cooks, and yet men survive insulting breakfast daily." A few sailors breathed out almost laughter. The tension loosened, not gone, but less sharp. The captain looked at Eva. "Walk with me." She followed him toward the stern, away from the men and their watching. He did not speak until the noise of work had risen again behind them. "You knew I would ask you to show him," the captain said. "No," Eva said. "But you did it," the captain said. Eva looked back toward the deck. "You asked." The captain looked out over the water. "That cannot be your only reason forever." Eva rested her hand lightly on the rail. The blue glass charm Silas had given her hung at her throat today, half hidden beneath her collar. "No." That was all she said. It was enough, though not comforting. The captain had never wanted a daughter. He disliked even thinking the word, as if it were an accusation someone might lay at his feet. He had not fathered her. He had not known her first steps, her first fever, her first word. He did not know the name she had been born with, the sound of her mother's voice, whether she had once laughed easily, whether she had feared storms before. One took everything from her. All he had done was refuse to throw her back. A low bar for fatherhood, he thought, and yet the ship had begun using the word in whispers. The captain's daughter, not where he could hear if the men had sense. Not where Eva could hear if they had mercy. But ships had thin walls and thinner habits. He had heard it twice already. Once from a sailor half drunk near the water casks. Once from Silas, who had crossed himself immediately afterward, as if the phrase itself invited weather. The captain did not know what to do with it. He knew how to punish theft, bargain ransom, read wind, smell mutiny, and decide which men could be trusted with powder, coin, or silence. He knew how to take a ship and how to leave one burning. He knew the weight of command so well, he sometimes felt it in his bones before waking. He did not know how to raise a girl into a world that had already taken too much from her. But he knew he could no longer hide her behind childhood. "You are angry," Eva said. The captain glanced at her. She did not look at him. "No," he said. Eva's eyes moved to his hand, where his fingers had tightened on the rail. The captain released it. "Not at you. At them?" Eva asked. "At time," the captain said. Eva considered that. "That is stupid." This time the captain did smile, briefly. Eva watched the sea. "Thomas says men get sentimental when they do not sleep." "Thomas says many things because silence makes him itch," the captain said. Eva's mouth did not move, but something eased in her face. The captain let the small quiet sit between them. After a while, he said, "You understand what happened today?" Eva looked back toward the deck. "The boy was wrong." "That is the least of it," the captain said. Eva watched the young sailor working under the quartermaster's eye. "He did not want me to be right." "Closer," the captain said. She looked back toward the deck. Briggs had wandered closer, despite pretending not to. Silas watched Eva watching them, and then looked away too late. Eva said, "They are deciding what I am." The captain felt that beneath the ribs. "Yes." "What do you want them to decide?" she asked. The question was simple enough to be cruel. The captain could have said safe, useful, untouchable, crew. He could have said daughter, and hated himself for how badly the word wanted shape. Instead, he said, "I want them to decide carefully." Eva accepted that with a slight nod, as if it were an answer instead of cowardice dressed in command. The captain turned toward the horizon. "Men obey many things for many reasons: fear, coin, habit, hunger, love, if they are fortunate or foolish. But command is not the same as obedience." Eva listened. "Any brute can make men move," he said. "Any king can call obedience loyalty if enough soldiers stand near him. That does not make him fit to command." "What does?" Eva asked. The captain looked down at her. "Knowing what must be done, and being willing to bear the cost of ordering it." Eva's gaze stayed on him. He continued, "If you tell a man to haul a line, you are answerable for what happens when he does. If you change course, you own the waters you choose. If you spare a life, you own what that life does next. If you take one, you own that too. A ship obeys the person who knows what must be done. Eva looked out at the sea. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she said, "Then most ships obey the wrong person." The captain drew a slow breath. He should have corrected her. A responsible man would have. A father perhaps would have told her the world was not so simple, that good men could command badly and cruel men could keep ships alive, that judgment required more than seeing the flaw in others. But she was 14, and the world had already shown her too much of itself. Comfort would insult her. So the captain said, "Yes." Eva turned her head toward him. "Yes," he repeated, "most do." Below them, the ship creaked and leaned into the wind. Behind them, the young deckhand finished correcting the line. The quartermaster inspected it, then jerked his chin toward Eva. The boy hesitated. Then, red-faced and stiff, he crossed the deck. Eva turned as he approached. The boy stopped before her. His pride looked painful, but he swallowed it. "Thank you." Eva looked at him for a moment. "Watch where it strains." The boy blinked. He left quickly. The captain watched him go. The ship had not changed its mind. Not yet. Ships did not change that quickly. But something had shifted. A rope eased into a new pull. A sail catching wind from another direction. Men had seen Eva corrected, challenged, backed, and thanked. They had seen her not as omen, not as rescued child, not as the captain's private burden, but as someone whose judgment could save flesh from rope and pride from consequence. Small things, the captain knew, moved ships. Eva stood beside him at the rail, quiet as ever. Young still. Too young in ways that mattered and old in ways no child should be. The wind moved loose strands of hair against her cheek. The blue glass at her throat flashed once in the sun and vanished beneath her collar. The captain looked at her and felt the old question rise again, the one he never spoke, because no answer would undo what had already been done. "What have I made of you?" Eva's eyes stayed on the working deck, watching the men who had begun, slowly and unwillingly, to watch her back. The captain did not touch her shoulder. She was past that now, or nearly. Instead, he stood beside her, close enough to be understood and far enough to let the crew see she stood on her own. After a while, Eva looked toward the young sailor. "He will do it wrong again." "The boy?" the captain asked. Eva nodded once. "Yes." The captain followed her gaze. "Likely." Eva looked back at him. "Will you let me correct him?" The captain looked toward the deck, where the young sailor was trying very hard not to look in their direction. "If you are right," the captain said. Eva nodded once. That was all. The wind filled the sails. The ship moved on, carrying all its old fears and new calculations beneath the black flag. And for the first time, when men glanced toward Eva, the captain saw fewer of them look away. Thank you for listening to Chapter 7 of The Child the Sea Kept. If you'd like to continue the story, the chapter playlist is linked in the description below. I'll see you in the next chapter.